Hello everyone and welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I'm sharing a card today that uses a beautiful bold stamp set, and we're going to use a very unusual color combination. Night of Navy, Pineapple Punch, and Call Me Clover. Those yellow flowers are certainly stunning, and of course we're going to add some bling to it along the way. I'm going to teach you a trick about using a border stamp that you might not have thought of. If you are here visiting from YouTube, you'll be able to find the pictures and the cutting dimensions for this card down in the link of this video description below. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. Here's a good close-up of the card we're going to be creating today, and I'll give you lots of tips along the way. And I've pulled out those bold images from the Bloom by Bloom stamp set. These bold images are absolutely stunning on a card. Simple stamping, which means just colored ink and you're done. But today we're going to do some fussy cutting and some layering. Keep in mind you can alter this project to be as simplistic as you'd like. I'm going to bring in my Pierce mat for this. Whenever I'm using those solid images, I really find it's a lot easier for me to get a clear impression by using the mat. And I'll put my Scrap Whisper White cardstock on the top. Now I've pulled out one of the flowers and the Pineapple Punch ink pad. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink up my image, and then I'll stamp two of those. So I want one here, and then I'll ink that up again, and I'll stamp another one next to it. I'm switching over to the Night of Navy ink pad, and this time I'm grabbing the smaller solid flower, so I'm going to go ahead and ink that one up as well. And I'm going to stamp three of these. I'm going to stamp one here. Oops, do you see that mistake here? See those areas right here in my image? That's because I have pressed too hard in the ink pad and I've actually gotten ink inside the negative images of the stamp. So I've got a clean stamp. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stamp a little bit more gingerly. When you've got a brand new ink pad or it's really, really juicy, it's really easy to get too zealous. So I'll go ahead and I'll press here, and I'm going to make one more, and I'll stamp that one here. And I'm going to do one more yet, but I want this one lighter, so I'm not going to re-ink. So that residual ink on here is going to give me a little bit lighter navy color. I'm switching over now to the Call Me Clover ink pad. And I've pulled out that leaf image, and I'm going to stamp 5 of these. I'm going to set this aside for just a minute, and I'm going to bring in my card base, which is a 4 1/4 by 11 piece of Whisper White cardstock. I've scored it in half before you join me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fold that. And I'm a big fan of my bone folder for that nice crisp edge. I'm going to grab the 6 by 6 grid paper. These are intended for the Stamparatus stamp positioning tool, but I absolutely love them when I need just a small area to cover. So I'm going to lay my cardstock on here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out that dotted border image. Now you can see this is not going to make it all the way across. So my tip for you is to always make sure that you're going to connect it in an area that will not be visible. So I know I'm going to put my cluster of flowers somewhere around here. So I'm going to make sure that I start on one end or the other so that any area that's not connected well will not be visible. I've got my Night of Navy ink pad here, and I'm going to go ahead and ink that up. I am going to stamp off on my scratch paper because I don't want it too dark to compete with my flowers. Now I'm going to start up here on an angle, and I'm going to press. I'm going to do the exact same thing again, and I'm going to stamp off. And now I'm going to do my best to connect them. And if it's not perfect, it's okay because it's going to be underneath that cluster like we just talked about. And I'm going to repeat this one more time so that I have a second row. And how close or how far apart you make them is completely up to you. And then one more time to connect those. So now we have our border, and you can see that these are not straight at all, but the illusion is going to be created by the cluster. My next step is to add a greeting, and I've pulled out the words, "So glad we are friends," and it's from the stamp set called Incredible Like You. You're going to notice the Bloom by Bloom stamp set that I've just used does not have any greetings in it. So I've just borrowed a greeting from another stamp set, and I'm absolutely loving these because of the mixed fonts. You'll find both of these stamp sets in the brand new Occasions catalog that debuted on January 3rd. Now, if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're interested in receiving a complimentary copy of either the Occasions catalog or the annual catalog, just leave me a comment below. I'll be happy to send them to you. And I'll also throw in a copy of the brand new sale brochure. The 13 products in this brochure are absolutely free with a $50 product order before shipping and tax between now and March 31st. There are even $100 free selections for those of you that have a larger wish list. I'm going to ink up my greening in that Call Me Clover, and I'm going to stamp that here near the bottom right. I'll push that off to the side for just a moment, and I'm going to come back to these images, and I'm actually going to fussy cut these, which just simply means I'm going to use my scissors. Now let me give you some tips along the way. I prefer to cut down deep in my scissors versus the tip because I can control it a little bit better. Make sure you're leaving a little bit of white cardstock around your edges. You don't want to cut on the stamped colored lines themselves. It actually can distort the image, especially since none of us can cut perfectly. I know I can't. So just leave a little bit of white around there, and it doesn't matter if it's not completely perfect, which means the white is not symmetrical all the way around. Especially since our card base is white, it's going to be very forgiving. Now it's just a matter of assembling. I'm going to bring in some dimensionals, and I'm going to start with my larger flowers, which are my yellow ones. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to add a dimensional in the center. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm leaving room around those petals so that I can add the leaves. And again, remember, this is the area that we want to hide. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay my flowers out like this. And if they overlap, that's totally fine. And I'm going to grab another dimensional. I'm going to put that on the back of one of the stronger colored Night of Navies, and that's going to go right here in the middle. And then I'll take the lighter one, and I'll adhere that one in the center of this flower. So I've got a little contrast going on here. And then the last one here, I'm going to tuck this one up underneath here. Now here come our leaves. Now there's a couple things you can do. You can certainly use glue dots to assemble these. I'm going to use dimensionals. I find that they fit very well. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to place it right down here in the broadest center of the leaf. Pull off the paper backing. I chose to put the whitest area at the bottom. There's no right or wrong. It's all a matter of where you want. I'm able to tuck these up underneath because there's no dimensional along the outside of my flower. So I'll go ahead now and I'll just position the rest of these. My last step is to add a little bit of texture, a little bit extra bling to this card. And I'm choosing to use the Happiness Blooms enamel dots. You're going to find the colors are reminiscent to this. I've chosen to use the Pineapple Punch dots here. These already have glue dots on the back, which makes them super easy to use. I'm using my Take Your Pick pickup tool. Absolutely love the putty end here that helps me pick up small sequins and pieces of cardstock. And on this end, there's an interchangeable tip. So you can just turn this and slide it out and then slide it back in. I've got the paper piercing tool attachment here. It also comes with a dual-ended stylus tool and a putty refill for $10. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick up a couple of these. I'm gonna place one down here. I'm gonna use a little bit larger one. I'm gonna place that up here, and I'll place my other one here. There we go. Really, really simple. So here's the one we made today, the one I made before you joined me. Place your petals and your flowers in the most appropriate spot based on your stamping. That's just another great tip. If you've enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit the subscribe button here at the bottom and click the little bell icon that's next to it. That will give you notifications of when I upload my next video and even when I'm live here on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.